Imagine you've just been offered a promotion. It comes with a shiny new title, a better office, and a $20,000 raise. Most people, about 99% of the population, would pop the champagne and sign the contract before the ink even dries, because we've been conditioned to think a promotion proves you're winning the career game. But what if I told you that for about 60% of you, that signature is the single fastest way to destroy your earning potential and your happiness? It sounds ridiculous, but there is a brutal economic trap called the Peter Principle that explains why your boss is incompetent and, more importantly, how you can avoid becoming him. If you climb blindly, you will eventually reach a level where you fail. Today, we are going to look at why saying no to a promotion might be the most profitable, high ROI career move you ever make. I've spent years looking at labor economics and corporate structures, and the data is surprisingly clear. We treat a career like a video game where you just keep leveling up. But in the real world, leveling up often changes the genre of the game entirely. You go from being the elite sniper in a first-person shooter to playing a resource management sim where you're just moving spreadsheets around. If you're a great sniper but a terrible accountant, that promotion is a trap. But here's the kicker that no one tells you at the HR orientation. This isn't just a hunch, it's a mathematical certainty that has been studied for decades. Before we break down the hard data and the specific framework for how to decline a promotion without looking like you've given up, I want to mention that this channel is about looking at money and career decisions through a rational, mathematical lens, not an emotional one. If you want to stop making decisions because they feel good and start making decisions that actually increase your long-term utility, you should subscribe. It's the best ROI on your time you'll get today. Hi, I'm Alice from Money Blueprint. Take a refreshing sip of water for your health and your focus, and let's dive into why your next career step up might actually be a step off a cliff. Now, let's talk about Lawrence J. Peter and why he thought your manager was fundamentally useless. Back in 1969, Peter wrote what was supposed to be a satire of corporate bureaucracy, but it ended up becoming a foundational text in management theory. The core idea is devastatingly simple. In a hierarchy, every employee tends to rise to their level of incompetence. Here is how the trap works. You started a job, you are good at it, and because you are competent, you get promoted to a harder job. You work hard, you figure it out, and you become good at that one too. So what happens? You get promoted again. This cycle of competence leading to promotion continues until you eventually land in a role that you are not good at. Maybe the skills required are totally different, or the pressure is too high, but suddenly you stop performing well. Once you reach that level where you're struggling, what Peter called your final placement, the promotions stop. You don't get promoted again because you aren't doing a great job anymore, but crucially, you usually don't get fired either. You just sort of hang there. You become a bottleneck, spending the rest of your career in a role that you are fundamentally bad at, stressed out and blocking anyone else from moving up. The system is actually designed to move you out of the jobs you excel at and keep you permanently installed in the one job you can't handle. It is a mechanism that efficiently turns your competence into incompetence. But wait, it gets even more interesting because this isn't just a theory. We have massive empirical evidence that shows companies systematically destroy value by promoting their best people. If you think you're the exception, you need to see the numbers from a study of 53,000 workers that proves high performance in one role actually predicts failure in the next. Researchers published a paper in the Quarterly Journal of Economics, analyzing data from over 200 firms, looking specifically at salespeople. Sales is the perfect testing ground because performance is easy to measure. You either hit your number or you didn't. The study found a clear, scary pattern. The strongest predictor of whether a salesperson got promoted was their sales volume. If you sold a lot, you became the boss. But when they looked at the teams these new managers took over, the data showed that the better a person was at selling, the worse they were at managing. There was actually a negative correlation. Superstar salespeople, when promoted, led teams that performed worse than teams led by average salespeople. This is because selling is a lone wolf activity, requiring aggression and individual focus, while managing requires the opposite: collaboration, coaching, and patience. By promoting the top sellers, companies were taking their highest revenue generators off the street and putting them in positions where they actively damaged the performance of everyone else. It was a double whammy of value destruction. The study even identified that the best managers were actually the people who had a track record of collaborating on complex deals, even if their individual numbers weren't the highest. But those people rarely got promoted because the system is blinded by flashy metrics. This confirms that the Peter Principle isn't an accident. It's a structural flaw in how we think about talent, assuming that if you are good at level 1, you will automatically be good at level 2. If you think that's bad, this next part is where the math really starts to work against you, and it involves a concept called regression to the mean. To get a promotion, you usually need to have a spectacular year where you blow your targets out of the water, but performance is always a mix of skill and luck. To have a peak year, you likely had good skill, but you also probably had a run of good luck. The market was hot, or you landed a whale client. When you get promoted based on that peak year, statistically, your performance in the next period is likely to drift back down toward your average. You regress to the mean. But now you're in a harder job, so you have the natural drop-off from your lucky streak ending combined with the increased difficulty of the new role. To your bosses, it looks like you suddenly became incompetent, when in reality, the system just selected you at your absolute peak and set you up for a statistical correction. But here's the truth that most career coaches won't tell you. You need to visualize your career not as a ladder, but as a specific graph that could lead you right off a cliff. Imagine a graph where the y-axis is your competence and the x-axis is the job level. For most of us, that line doesn't go up forever. At level 1, your competence starts low but rises as you learn. At level 2, say a senior analyst, you reach your zone of genius, where the tasks match your brain wiring perfectly. Your competence line is high and flat, and you go home feeling useful and confident. But then comes level 3, the manager role, and suddenly the tasks shift. You aren't doing the analysis anymore, you're managing the people doing it. The line on the graph starts to dip. By the time you reach level 4, like a director, where the job is pure politics and strategy, your competence line crashes and you're drowning. The corporate ladder forces you to move from left to right on that x-axis, but your actual skills are a horizontal line that cuts across the graph. As long as the job stays below that line, you're safe. The moment it crosses above it, you enter the Peter zone. The tragedy is that we celebrate entering this zone with parties and LinkedIn updates, literally celebrating the moment we become bad at our jobs. Important as that is, the real secret to winning isn't about how high you can go, but about calculating the risk-reward of every single trade you make. Every promotion is a trade. You trade your current comfort and mastery for potential status and money, but you also take on the risk of burnout, the risk of being fired because you can't deliver, and the risk of hating your life because you spend 6 hours a day in meetings. If you plot expected utility, which is basically happiness plus money minus stress, you get a hump-shaped curve. For the first few promotions, the money outweighs the stress, and utility goes up. But for many people, the tipping point is the senior individual contributor role. Beyond that, the extra 20% in salary often comes with a 50% increase in stress and a high probability of failure. That is negative expected value, and a rational investor would never take that trade, yet we take it in our careers every day. So, if you've run the numbers and realized the promotion offer is a trap, how do you decline it without killing your career? You can't just say you're lazy. You have to frame it strategically through a skills audit. You sit down with your boss and separate the pay from the role, because most of us only want the promotion for the raise, not the job. The conversation needs to pivot to how you can add more value and get paid for it without changing your fundamental function. You want to push for a senior individual contributor track, which is becoming common in tech but can be negotiated anywhere. You say, I've looked at where I drive the most ROI for this company, and it's in doing the work, not managing it. I want to double down on being the best specialist you have. Ask for a path where you take on more complex projects or mentor juniors with a compensation adjustment while staying in your role. You are framing your refusal as a commitment to excellence and protecting the company from a bad manager. If they say the only way to get a raise is to become a manager, that is a massive red flag that you are in an organization that doesn't understand value. But here is the final realization that changes everything. Declining a promotion is actually one of the ultimate power moves. It signals that you know exactly what you are worth and what you are good at, showing a level of confidence that says you don't need a title to validate you. Paradoxically, people who stay in roles they excel at often end up with more job security than the climbers. The climbers are expendable because they are often operating at the edge of their incompetence, but the person who is the absolute best at the core technical work, they are bulletproof. During layoffs, middle managers get cut while the people who actually build the product or sell the service usually stay. The Peter Principle is real, and if you blindly say yes to every opportunity, you will eventually find yourself in a room you don't understand, doing a job you hate, waiting to get fired. The smartest person in the room isn't necessarily the CEO. It's the person who climbed to the exact height where they were happiest and most effective, and then had the discipline to stop. They maximized their utility, not their title. That is how you win the game. If this perspective shifted your thinking, hit the like button so the algorithm knows this is useful data. I want to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever seen someone promoted to their level of incompetence, or have you ever turned one down? I read the comments to see real-world data points. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.